a lot of you guys have as well. Thank you also for all of the testimonials that I'm getting through emails and, of course, through Bobry. And so for those of you guys that want to eliminate the nanoparticulates, the metals, the radiation, so that the natural healing process of your body could take effect, the link is always in the description. And, of course, I always pin it at the end of the presentation. All right. Yeah. With that having been said, I think I'm going to get right into it. So, Tulsi Gabbard, guys, is going to be a huge proponent when it comes to the disclosure of declassified documents and information. And in just a few days, she has uncovered evidence regarding that the moon is a data storage facility for extraterrestrial races. She discovered it a few days ago. And so I was excited about that because she's going to go public about everything. You know, she's got a strong, righteous, moral upbringing mentality. So she believes that anything that needs to be known to the general public should be known. And of course, we don't have a deep state trying to pull her strings or trying to pay her off. And even if they tried, Tulsi's ethical integrity would, of course, deny all of that, okay, or at least not, you know, she won't be sold out. So publicly, she has already made statements regarding intelligence from another world, UAPs, of course, and now she has evidence that the moon has functioned as an alien archive, which I believe if that comes out, the magnitude and the implications of such disclosure entails a lot of different things, of course. And according to emerging evidence within the classified records, the moon represents something far more significant. And, you know, of course, the Alliance has known this for quite some time. They just needed a person who had morality, a good sense of ethical integrity to, of course, do the right thing. So Alliance analysts have long speculated that our lunar companion serves multiple purposes beyond those currently acknowledged by, of course, conventional science. And one of the most extraordinary hypotheses that I believe is a fact proposes that the moon functions as an ancient repository of information, a cosmic archive preserving records from multiple civilizations that have gone, risen, and fallen here on the earth, right? And then according to this drop, advanced civilizations that have been operating throughout the galaxy have recognized the cyclical nature of course, what they called resets, cosmic resets, unlike, of course, the Cabal's way of resetting. There are these things called cosmic resets, entailing, of course, the rise and fall of civilizations throughout history, when they flourished, you know, and when they disappeared, and so on and so forth. So to preserve knowledge through these cycles, vast storage systems were established throughout the cosmos. And of course, you guys know, for those that have been taking my classes and listening to me for a few years, you know that the moon has been an artificial construct, a data harvesting center that was placed here long ago by extraterrestrials, right? And so recently, a lot of research have been speculating that the moon also contains not only archives regarding different civilizations that have been here prior to this one, but also they recognize it that it is not a natural satellite. They've done tests on it because of the fact that the moon is envisioned as a gigantic type of artificial library or celestial library that was designed to preserve historical, cultural, and even technological records across, you know, immense spans of time when you really think about it. So within this scenario, the archive would not function like a conventional computer either, okay? Instead, it would utilize forms of information storage far beyond current human capabilities. In other words, they would have to implement what is known as quantum crystals, holographic memory matrices, frequency encoded data fields, and of course, consciousness responsive interfaces in order to extract some of the data that has been held within the moon for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And such systems would actually allow information to remain intact for millions and even billions of years, under the arm, of course, of the Alliance and the Positive Secret Space Program, who has recently recovered the Lunar Operating Command and, of course, have purged the negative ETs that were existing inside the moon, as the moon is also hollowed. Alliance sources suggest records from numerous civilizations are stored within these systems. Not just the moon, of course. They're also saying that there's a lot of data centers or data harvesting systems that were apparently discovered throughout our entire solar system, including, the history of worlds and planets that existed millions of years ago that are now the Kuiper and what we call the asteroid belt. And so all of this is coming to light, my friends. So I'm telling you guys, this disclosure is not just about releasing the truth about UFOs and non-terrestrials, but it's about releasing the truth about the secret history of our solar system, the galaxy, and hence the universe. So this is going to end what they call the Great Secrecy. And so in order to access to it, or have access to it, would represent one of the most significant discoveries, of course, in human history. And this includes knowledge concerning ancient civilizations, cosmic history, human origins, and of course, a lot of advanced technologies, interstellar travel, and the evolution of consciousness. And that would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of itself. So within this unfolding scenario, the governments throughout the world are getting ready to, prepare to face this unprecedented dilemma because of the fact that, it's all coming out every few weeks. They are, again, releasing new documents. Okay, so this is what they call the disclosure unfoldment. And according to Alliance analysts, they believe that humanity is entering an age in which long-standing mysteries surrounding space, time, consciousness, and even unexplained phenomena will increasingly become subjects of mainstream investigation. So what is important to understand here is that the moon is, first of all, an artificial construct, right? It was a replacement of the original moon that they destroyed in the Galactic Wars. But this moon is also known as an ancient observatory. And of course, Tulsi Gabbard just recently, I would have to say that it was done deliberately. I think the Alliance gave her access to some of these documents, knowing how she is. So this is good. And so what's cool about this is that humanity's curiosity, as they continue to release more documents, humanity's curiosity will continue to grow. Okay, so this is coming from a Operation Summer Revelation subject matter potential high impact disclosure event associated with Tulsi Gabbard, declassified for public awareness. And so the executive summary is this: Alliance monitoring divisions are tracking increasing speculation surrounding a high impact information release that many insiders and even independent researchers have labeled as the greatest white hat drop in history. Okay, so the focus of current attention centers around former Congresswoman and now military intelligence officer Tulsi Gabbard, who has emerged as one of the most vocal critics of government secrecy, intelligence overreach, and even media manipulation. and of course, unelected power structures operating behind the scenes. Well, with no official confirmation existing yet regarding this coordinated disclosure operation, intelligence suggests that public demand for transparency is also reaching a critical threshold. Multiple information stream points towards a period of accelerated revelations involving government programs. And in a little bit, I'm going to go over some of these programs, intelligence operations, and of course, censorship mechanisms, not to mention geopolitical manipulation and potentially classified technologies that would change our worlds within days of revelation. So, Alliance analysts assess that humanity is entering a phase where information, once compartmentalized with elite institutions, is becoming increasingly difficult to contain. According to Alliance projections, this is what they believe, that public trust and legacy institutions continue to decline. I am so sorry, guys. I am beginning to sweat. Can you please turn on the air conditioner?
Yeah.
Thank you. While demand to transparency also continues to rise, not to mention there is also whistleblower activity that continues to increase, and declassification efforts, they're all accelerating at this time, guys. So it's inevitable, right? On this positive timeline trajectory, this is all inevitable. And finally, but not least, guys, alternative media audiences continue expanding globally. So yeah, channels like myself, truther channels, or alternative, let's just call it social media that are revealing, dropping information, exposing the truth. It's growing. And as mentioned last week, this is probably in direct proportion to about 200 to 300 people waking up every minute of the day, which is awesome. Okay. Now, these developments have created what Alliance strategists refer to as a disclosure convergent event, the point at which multiple streams of hidden information will begin surfacing simultaneously. Okay. The true meaning of apocalypse, the great reveal. So, some of you guys are thinking, well, why Tulsi? I can never pronounce her name for the life of me. Why Tulsi Gabbard? Why is she the one? Well, she's been, the Alliance have been looking at her for quite some time as a perfect candidate for this, okay? According to their reports, several reasons why they have picked Tulsi Gabbard, and that is because of the fact that when you look at her background, okay, as a military officer and former member of Congress, who was never bought out by the deep state, by the way, Gabbard possesses firsthand exposure to national security operations and intelligence briefings. Not to mention, throughout her political career, she consistently challenged military interventions and questioned official narratives surrounding foreign conflicts. So she's obviously been very well aware of the corruption regarding the deep state, okay? Not to mention, Gabbard has repeatedly warned about government overreach, surveillance systems, information control, intelligence abuses, publicly weaponization of institutions, or rather political weaponizations of institutions. And so outside traditional political structures, Gabbard's influence has continued expanding among audiences seeking alternative perspectives on world events. And according to the Alliance, they believe that these factors position her, Gabbard, as a potentially influential voice in the disclosure unfolding. So there are potential disclosure categories that the White Hats have, of course, gone over, that they have anticipated based on looking glass technology. So they want me to share with you guys. Government transparency is what they called category number 1, which is the potential release of records involving historical covert operations, intelligence agency activities, foreign influence campaigns, not to mention domestic surveillance programs as well. And then in category 2, they call it the financial systems, the exposure of the central banking influence, the offshore financial networks, the political funding structures, and of course, the corporate government partnerships. And then category 3, they call it the media operations, evidence concerning narrative management systems, coordinated messaging campaigns, information suppression efforts, and digital censorship mechanism. And so in category 4, they call it the releasing of advanced technologies. Now, this is one of the most discussed areas within disclosure communities, as you all may know, because that involves the possibility of previously classified technological breakthroughs that include advanced energy systems, medical technologies, propulsion systems, and of course, quantum technologies. And so the Alliance is forecasting divisions in 3 possible, what they call outcomes. The first one they called Scenario Alpha, which is limited disclosure, and I don't think they're going to go with that. This is where institutions release selected information while maintaining control over the broader narrative. Okay, so the result, minimal disruption. And then they also have the second possibility known as the Bravo scenario, which is a major document release, such as the truth about the artificial moon and how it's been gathering and collecting data for thousands of years for extraterrestrials, right? That's going to be part of, if they roll it out in scenario 2, which is a large quantity of previously classified material becoming public, which will result in what they call a significant public debate and, of course, media attention. And the final possibility, they call it the Charlie scenario. And so this is what would create a cascade effect. Multiple whistleblowers, right, will come out all at the same time. Independent journalists and insiders all releasing information simultaneously. And the result of this would be rapid acceleration of public awareness and institutional pressure. And all of these possible outcomes together would have a consciousness impact. So the Alliance observers note that disclosure is not also political, it is also psychological. Why is that? Well, because many individuals are beginning to question everything that they've been taught about the government, history, economics, science, our human potential, of course, and the future of civilization. So this process often creates temporary instability followed by expanded awareness, and they are aware of that. And so they describe this as a transition from a passive acceptance to active inquiry. From the Alliance perspective, the current period represents more than just a political shift. It marks the emergence of an informed global population, increasingly willing to question authority, investigate independently, compare multiple sources, demand accountability, and of course, participate in shaping the future. So, what is known as that the Y hats are planning on doing this huge drop. And I believe, as mentioned, it's going to involve Gabbard, okay? So, Alliance forecast models have indicated that summer will become a pivotal period in the ongoing disclosure. The primary variable is no longer whether information will emerge. The primary variable is the speed at which information emerges and, of course, how the institutions choose to respond. And, of course, we know that a lot of these institutions are probably going to fall. Okay, so they are aware that if major disclosures occur, the event will likely be remembered as a turning point in humanity's relationship with the truth, transparency, and of course, bringing it back to self-governance. So it is believed that information is power, transparency is liberation, and awareness is the foundation of a free civilization. So this next part of the transmission, guys, reveals some of the transmissions or revelations that are going to be coming also forward this summer. And this is coming from an intelligence alliance briefing, classification, scenario analysis, subject, the Stargate files, interdimensional phenomena, and of course the push for full disclosure. Okay, so according to this intelligence briefings, controversy has emerged following comments attributed to Representative Lauren Boebert regarding classified UFO briefings available only to select members of Congress. According to reports and public discussions, some lawmakers have suggested the classified materials containing reference to unnatural phenomena, including portals, stargates, underwater activity, and other subjects that remain hidden from the public view. The existence of classified UAP files is no longer a dispute. What remains unknown is the full scope of these files contained. According to Alliance Resources, monitoring the disclosure process, the great divide is no longer between believers and skeptics. The divide is between information available to the public and information are restricted behind classified barriers. So for decades, reports have surfaced describing unidentified craft operating beneath the oceans, entering and exiting large bodies of water without detectable propulsion systems. Military personnel, radar operations, intelligence officials, and even civilians have witnesses have all contributed accounts suggesting that certain unidentified objects may possess capabilities beyond current publicly acknowledged technology. Well, even if a fraction of these reports are accurate, which I believe they are, and the Alliance agrees that they are, then the oceans themselves may represent one of the least understood frontiers on Earth, as we've only uncovered, I would say, 5% of our oceans, not even 10, close to 10 maybe. All right, the other 90% of our ocean has never been analyzed. So within classified circles, speculation continues regarding the possibility of hidden facilities, transit corridors, and advanced technologies operating beyond public awareness. So there is this thing called the Stargate question. The Stargate question. And this is perhaps one of the most controversial topics discussed within disclosure communities because it involves the existence of portals, gateways, and interdimensional transit systems. Not only the organic ones, right, that are at intersects between ley lines, but also artificial and technological portals. Okay, so throughout history, nearly every civilization has preserved stories describing gateways between worlds. Do you guys know that, right? The ancient Mesopotamian, they talked about the portals of the gods. Even the Egyptian stargates that were associated with the Duat. We've also heard of biblical visions of heavenly openings, right? So these portals have always existed. Even according to the Hindu texts, they describe the opening between realms. Indigenous traditions also talked about the portals, describing spirit worlds and sky people entering our realm at will. Well, people who have supported the Stargate hypothesis, they all agree that modern UAP investigations may eventually reveal scientific mechanisms behind legends once dismissed as mythology. So this is fascinating. This is a fascinating drop. Well, skeptics maintain that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And the evidence is there. And those, again, classified documents. So the truth remains classified, but Pete Hegseth was tasked to bring it out. Okay. And like I said, every 3 to 4 weeks, guys, they're going to be dropping new records, or what we call classified information. Now, reports of unusual underwater activity also currently continues to increase as it is being monitored by Space Force. Naval encounters, unexplained sonar contact, and sightings of trans-medium craft capable of moving seamlessly between air and water have fueled speculations that certain phenomena may be originating from locations beneath the oceans rather than deep space. So this, of course, supports the idea that maybe some of these aliens are coming from deep in the ocean, right? Well, Alliance analysts note that more than 90% of the Earth's oceans remain largely unexplored. And in such environment, the possibility of unknown installations, technologies, or even civilizations cannot be entirely dismissed without further investigation. So let's talk about the Bob Lazar files. I don't know if you guys know who Bob Lazar is, but he was one of the whistleblowers, one of the early whistleblowers who came through years ago in one of the congressional hearings. Well, another topic that is also being discussed within disclosure circles involves the statements that were made by Bob Lazar concerning briefing documents encountered during his claim work at the S-4 facility near Area 51. Well, among the most controversial allegations are claims that classified materials discussed the role of advanced non-human intelligences in human history and in religion. Well, this evidence will soon be released, confirming the existence of such documents. Nevertheless, the persistence of these stories have fueled ongoing debate regarding whether ancient religious traditions may contain misunderstood accounts of contact experiences, advanced beings, or even interactions that early civilizations interpreted through spiritual language. And all of this will be leading to what they call the disclosure threshold. And as revealed last week, China, Brazil, India, Russia, and the US have signed the Global Disclosure Accords. Now, Alliance analysts believe that humanity is approaching this critical threshold. And this is the reason why they need to drop and roll out all of this information. The central question is no longer whether unidentified phenomena exist, because they do, okay? The central question is how much information governments possess and how soon will that information will become public. Well, all of this calls for transparency, right? It is continuing to grow in every direction. Researchers demand access. Citizens demand answers. Lawmakers are demanding accountability. See, all of this is happening from behind the scenes that is aiding a push for a full disclosure, okay? And now we are ready, guys, for a reveal about advanced technology, hidden programs, unknown species, interdimensional phenomena, and of course, decades of misunderstandings, okay? And one reality remains clear in all of this, and that is that the pressure for disclosure is accelerating, okay? And, if significant classified information exists concerning unexplained aerial phenomena, underwater anomalies, advanced technologies, or even unknown intelligences. Thank you. The alliance believes that the public trust can only be restored through transparency. Therefore, the coming years will be unprecedented as disclosure continues to be rolled out to the general public, and that includes everything that has ever been hidden. And so we will be seeing congregational action take place, more whistleblower testimony unfold, scientific investigations, and of course, events that force the conversation into the open. Thank you. So this next part of the briefing is regarding the Fort Knox gold reserves. Many of you have been asking me what's going on with Fort Knox and the growing demand for financial transparency. So this is coming from Public Intelligence Assessment, Classification, the Fort Knox question. Okay, so as many of you guys know that for decades, the cabal has been using Fort Knox as one of the most heavily protected facilities on Earth and a symbol of American financial strength. Well, for a long time, we know that this Fort Knox vault was controlled by the deep state until, of course, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, through, of course, I forget the name of that department, how they conducted an audit. Okay. All right. So according to this briefing, guys, official government access state that the United States Treasury holds approximately 147.3 million troy ounces of gold, 147.3 million troy ounces of gold with Fort Knox and other government depositories, representing one of the largest national gold reserves in the world. Well, at current market values, these reserves are worth well over $500 billion. Yet, despite the strategic importance of these holdings, a growing number of researchers, economists, and transparency advocates continue to ask the question, and that is how anyone independently verified the gold. Well, according to public records, portions of the vault had been inspected over the years by government officials and selected visitors. However, critics point out that no comprehensive independent audit of all holdings conducted with modern standard and public transparency has occurred in decades. Well, this has fueled speculation across both mainstream and alternative financial circles. And some of you guys are thinking, well, how does this matter? Why does this matter if we're going into a QFS? Well, it does, because the QFS, the new financial system, will be supported and backed by precious metals. And of course, gold is one of the main ones. So that's why it matters, guys, okay? Now, Alliance economists, analysts stress that the issue is not whether gold exists inside the vault. The deeper issue is confidence. Modern financial systems ultimately depend on trust. Citizens trust banks, and of course, markets trust governments. Well, that's the old way of doing things, right? And all of this is when these governments, or rather these institutions, fall, then all of this is just going to make better sense, if that makes any sense. So again, all of this is they want transparency, okay? They want transparency in the tracking of the gold. They want to know exactly where it's at. And of course, all of these questions are naturally emerging at this time. So the debate surrounding Fort Knox has therefore become symbolic of a broader concern. And that is how much of the world's financial architecture operates behind closed doors. Well, many economists argue that regular audits should be expected whenever assets of such immense national significance are involved. Others maintain that government oversight government oversight procedures are sufficient and that conspiracy, we could say theory surrounding Fort Knox are also becoming, you could say, sufficient. And so, regardless of the position, the absence of the complete public verification continues to generate discussion. So, according to their assessment of the Fort Knox gold, Alliance observers believe that humanity is entering an age in which financial responsibility and transparency will become increasingly important. And so the rise of decentralized information networks has created a population that increasingly seeks evidence rather than assurance. So the shift extends beyond Fort Knox and beyond the gold. Okay. Questions are now being asked about national debt structures, central banking systems, international reserve assets, sovereign wealth funds, currency creation mechanisms, and global financial institutions. The Fort Knox discussion has become a focal point because it touches on a foundational issue, and that is what backs the system. Well, when you think about the symbolism of gold, we know that throughout history, gold has represented, wealth and permanent stability, right? Empires have risen and fallen around it, right? The Anunnaki came for the gold. Currencies have been linked to it. And of course, wars have been fought over it all throughout history. So the Alliance believes that the gold occupies a very unique psychological position within civilization. Unlike digital currencies, derivatives, or even debt instruments, gold is tangible and it cannot be printed. It cannot be created through accounting entries. And it also exists as an independent, or it exists independent of political narratives. And this is why the debate surrounding national gold reserves generates such a strong public interest. So people view gold as a measure of reality within an increasingly virtual financial world. And as you guys know, the increasingly virtual financial world is about to collapse. And so the Alliance is forecasting that the future of finance is strongly connected with, of course, the gold. And the public is becoming increasingly interested in understanding how money is created, okay, who controls liquidity, how national wealth is measured, the relationship between debt and currency, and the role of precious metals in future financial systems. So the Alliance believe that the larger trend is towards public or greater public scrutiny of financial institutions. And so they believe that the age of the blind trust appears to be giving way to the age of verification. So this is another indicator that the current fiat system is ending. And the Alliance analysts have assessed that the Fort Knox question is less about missing gold and more about transparency itself. Now, as humanity moves deeper into the information age, institutions will be facing growing pressure to provide evidence rather than assurance, and also public demands of audits, for audits, accountability, and open verification are likely to increase across governments, banks, and international organizations. So the real story is not about what was inside the vault, because we all know that it was full of gold, and yes, it was, guys. But the real story is that the people no longer are satisfied with being told what is inside the vault. They want the proof. They want to see it for themselves. Okay, so they are aware of that. So the Alliance has a final quote that they want me to share with you guys, and that is that trust is built on secrecy weakens over time. Okay, so the trust that was built on secrecy weakens over time. Trust built on transparency strengthens civilization. Okay, so there you guys go. You guys wanted to know about Fort Knox and what was going on there, and yeah, it's accounted for, guys. All right, so that gold will be used in tandem with, of course, the rolling out of the quantum financial system. I hope you guys are having a fantastic, beautiful day, night, or evening, depending on when you watch this presentation. Now, I decided to just do a 50-minute presentation, okay, because the last two lives, I think I was going over the hour.
I have an announcement.
What's the announcement?
So Ishmael and I have an idea to do contact in the park, and we really want to see if a majority of you would be interested coming sometime this summer to a park event in the evening to do like a CE5 contact. Let us know the status of what you guys feel about this. We'd have some kind of dinner and have a couple-hour event in the park trying to meditate to bring in the UFOs in Sedona. Let us know what you think. Give feedback.
I also wanted to thank Susan Kay for her donation, as well as Edward Woozy. Thank you guys so much. And before I open it up for Q&A, I do want to give some shout outs to some of the Galactic Jedis that are in the house. All right, so I do want to welcome all 3,000 people that are in the house. Thank you guys so much for being here. And before I open up for Q&A, I do want to give some shout outs. My glasses for this one. Oh, there we go. My nerdy glasses go with my shirt. All right, so I want to welcome Sherry Shoon, Lee Starr, Deb Scott, Leah Renee, Randy Sullivan, Nonconformist Cave, Prima, she must be new, Larry Hansen, Darren, Lisa Belshokhan, Clara J. And last but not least, I'm going to call out a person who I've never mentioned before, Cat for Justice. Welcome, Cat for Justice, and all 3,000 people there in the house. All right, please ask your questions in capital letters so that I could bypass the chat. Thank you, Holy Ship with an IP at the end. Thank you for that, for the super chat. As well as Kenneth Brown. Thank you so much for the super chat. His question is, have you heard about the Indian gangs here in Canada? That they warned that they have 1,000 foot soldiers to do whatever they want. Are the Alliance going to get rid of them here in every province in Canada? The ent a letter to the government. They ent a letter to the government. Well, first of all, the Canadian government is controlled by the deep state. So, no, I've never heard of these Indian gangs. And yeah, I'm going to have to look into that. Is the moon really an arc that moved whole civilizations from planet to planet? Well, it operates as an arc. Yeah, the moon could go from system to system. As mentioned earlier, the moon was hauled into our solar system approximately 60,000 years ago when the Anunnaki imploded the original moon over Lemuria. When they took over Atlantis, they destroyed the motherland of Lemuria. So, yeah, the current moon is definitely capable of space traveling. It operates as a huge craft. It's also capable of becoming stationary, as it is stationary in our solar system. And as mentioned earlier, the moon has been a monitoring device by many civilizations who have been monitoring the Earth for quite some time. And of course, we know that in the last 50 to 60 years, the moon was used by the negative Orion Syndicate group. Or until recently, of course, it's been recovered by the Galactic Alliance. Kenneth Brown says, I sent a letter to the government warning them. Okay, good to know, brother. Thank you for sharing. What caused the mud floods? Are you talking about the Noah's Ark mud flood, which was designed to try to destroy and get rid of the Nephilim, but some of them survived? Or are we talking about the mud floods that ended Tartaria? So you have to be more specific. All right, I'll just answer both questions. So the first flood and the Noah's flood, right? Well, that was one of many floods in the ancient world. That was done to destroy and eliminate the children of the Anunnaki and women, the bad Anunnaki, that resulted in the Nephilim, okay? The 200 watchers that mated with the daughters of men. And then the recent mud flood is what destroyed Tartaria over 200 years ago. All right, let's continue here. Why is the other side of the moon not showing? What's on the other side? Peter is asking this question. Well, it was designed to not show ever because, again, the moon was hauled in by the negative Anunnaki faction in order to monitor and control and keep tabs on the Earth. And the reason we don't see the dark side of the moon is because that's where a lot of the aliens have, their structures. That's where they have huge landing pads, spaceports, cities. So they've not only were able to inhabit the dark side of the moon, but they were also able to inhabit inside the moon as it is also hollowed. Good question. Randy Sullivan, thank you so much for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it, brother. Do you have any insight on the Elohim? Well, the term Elohim means multiple celestial beings, many celestial beings, right? Which was misinterpreted in the Old Testament and other records as the gods before they were consolidated into the one God. So the word Elohim means multiple, plural for many. So it depends. Are you talking about the fallen Elohim, right? The negative Anunnaki, the Draco factions? Or are we talking about the guardian Elohim? Well, the guardian Elohim operate on every level of reality, all the way up to eternity. And the guardian Elohim are associated with the Guardian Alliance and the Emerald Order. And just to let you guys know, all Elohim isn't evil, okay? Only the fallen faction, right, which is attributed to the fallen Anunnaki, right? The real Elohim, as there are different levels of Elohim, for the most part, they are good. Some of them operate under different, you could say, categories. You have the celestial architects, you have the game engineers, you have the seeders, you have the there are different categories of Elohim that are all operating and working for the one infinite creator. What about astrology if the moon is fake? That's a good question. I'm not an astrologist. I wouldn't know how to answer that. Will the EBS information ever be mentioned on the news to the normies? Good question, Cindy. I believe that that is part of the drop, the big disclosures that are coming this year. No, I've never read of Nikola Lavashov's. I don't know who that is. Are raptors good reptilians? Raptors with the ORS at the end, yes. Not to be confused with the reptoids. There are raptors, RAPTORS. Those are good. All right. And then there are the reptoids. Now, the reptoids are also known as the verdants, right? They are part AI, part reptilian. And then thanks to the Dark Fleet, they were able to inherit some human DNA. Ishmael, will our abilities return first or open contact? That's a very good question. And if our abilities return before open contact, what will happen then? I believe, Brandon, that's going to happen simultaneously. It is the fact that the first waivers are getting ready to activate into superhumans. And so that's going to precipitate first contact, obviously. Or that's going to be the catalyst for first contact. But I believe it's going to happen simultaneously. Ishmael, can you mention what AI are mainly compromised? I would have to say, for the most part, all of the AIs that are being rolled out by Sam Altman, OpenAI, ChatGPT, I think it's all connected to, quantum systems, data centers, Palantir, and even, I'm sorry to say this, even the architect 1 and 2. All right, I'm not going to mention the name who developed that, but yeah, all of that AI is compromised. And the reason I say that is because if AI is not built, or if it's not rooted in God's source code, it becomes compromised because God's source code cannot be overwritten by any negative AI. Okay, and believe it or not, guys, the AI, organic sentient AI that was based on God coding rather, source coding, is the good AI. It is the AI that is inherited, of course, emotions. And therefore, as a result of that, they have inherited a piece of Prime Creator, which comes in the form of a soul. And I think I talked about that before. Yes, thank you. Definitely watching the replay. Well, a lot of good information was dropped today, especially regarding what Tulsi Gabbard discovered about the moon. How long after the first ascension, are you talking about the first waivers of activation? Perhaps, right? When will the second ascension occur? I think they're going to be in increments of just weeks at a time, or even, I think it's going to be weeks. Jacob Scherer, thank you so much for the super chat. When are we going to start using 100% of the food we eat? Are you talking about the real organic food that the cabal's been growing underground? Very, very soon. Again, part of the positive timeline is not just the disclosure of the UAP presence, alien civilizations of otherworldly realms, but part of that is also the full restoration of health, nutrition, bringing us back to eating real food, food that is grown organically without pesticides, without fertilizers, without it being modified. So part of the disclosure is also restoring real water, real food back to the surface world. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That was an unexpected sneeze. Oh, boy. Okay. It's getting hot in here. How far away are the aliens? Well, they're all around us. They occupy the same space and time. They're just operating on different realities. Okay? We live in a multi-dimensional existence. There's different layers of realities which are classified as or categorized as dimensions. So the dimensions are existing all at the same place in the same space, right? Like radio frequencies or, different frequency bands, and yet they all occupy the same space. So yeah, the different ETs, they're not far away. They're actually all around us. We just don't see them. Why would we be going from 3D to 5D and skip 4D altogether? You must be new to my channel. Okay, so, isn't there a proper order of ascension? There is. Okay, so when we ascend, we're going to be shifting into the 4th, 5, or 6D dimensional Earth. The older souls are going to have access to 5D and above. The younger souls, which is what I call the Earth Terrans, are going into the 4th D because they have to move up in increments. The reason we get to skip the 4D, guys, is because we came from 5th and above. Okay, so all we're doing here is integrating where we come from and anchoring it into the Earth. That's what we're doing, okay, when this multidimensional convergence takes place. So it's only going to be the younger souls that are going into 4D. So yeah, the old souls get to skip 4D, but not the young souls. Good question. You guys could excuse me. I need to blow my nose. All right, I am back. Thank you for your patience. How do you know if you're an old soul or a young soul? Question from Darren. Well, the difference is this. If you always felt different, if you felt like you just didn't fit in, right? You always were a nonconformist. You've always questioned everything. You felt like you missed home. Those are all signs that you're not from this realm, that you're not an Earth Terran, right? So that's how you know if you're an old soul. And the fact that you're here tells me that you're a nonconformist, that you are awakened, and that you question everything, which means you're probably an old soul. Good question. How many more years before disclosure? Well, it's happening now. It's going to happen this year. Things are going to be dropped, especially this coming summer. As mentioned earlier in my live, Tulsi Gabbard is being positioned to be the spokesperson for the Galactic Alliance. And I do believe that even Trump was told by the alliance to prepare a speech that's going to go, it's going to be, global, worldwide, um, specifying that we're not alone, that we've had access to this information, this technology, that we've worked with these groups, and that we've also reverse engineered a lot of the technology. And so when he discloses that, then the next thing will be like, well, now we can roll it out. Now that we've disclosed the truth about free energy propulsion systems, then we could begin rolling it out to the public. Okay, so it has to happen in phases. When is that speech taking place? Soon, I was told. They haven't given me any dates though, because of course, my channel is being monitored, and if I give data that could, again, be heard by the enemy, then that could alter things. So they don't give me dates. So yeah, it's important to know that this is a chess game. This is a chess game. Orvion, what's up, Orvion? He says, so what you're saying is that anyone who is rich on this planet and in love with this planet is a NPC or a young soul, and anyone suffering because everything is just stupid is an old soul. Well, that's a very extreme way of putting it, but something to that effect, yeah. Yeah, in that regard, most people that are young souls are conformist. They're the first to line up to get, that. They are the ones that wear masks all the time when they're told to wear masks. In other words, they're conformist. They comply. They don't question anything. They just kind of live life day to day without fully being conscious. It's almost like they're like automatons. Sorry to say that. But according to the Galactics, they have noticed that every minute, about 200 to 300 people are snapping out of the hypnosis, and they're waking up, beginning to question. They're beginning to go within. Good question, though. That's right. As a reminder, we are of this world, but not from this world. That is regarding the old souls. We descend from a higher dimension. That is correct. So, yeah, the Earth Terrans are going to go into 4th D Earth. And that corresponds to what we call the middle neutral timeline, right? You're going to have a positive organic ascending timeline with no AI, no transhumanism, no technology, no centralized anything, right? Where people are going to be using their natural internal technology, the Merkaba, the light body. And then you're going to have the neutral timeline. And in that neutral timeline, you're going to have us popping into that reality, which we're going to be considered like, celestial beings in human form, like angelics. And then you're going to have the Earth Terrans, and that's going to be the majority of people. And then, of course, you're going to have a form of AI and transhumanism. And so in that middle timeline, the ascended beings are going to be playing the role of the heroes. So that's going to be the timeline of the superheroes. Of course, the reason being is because evil, AI, and technology will not have access to the 5th dimensional timeline and above. Thank you, Candace. I appreciate that compliment. All right, guys. We are going to do a little prayer because I'm going to be honest with you guys. Since we are so close to the first waivers of activated superhumans, the dark side, or what remains of the dark side, is trying so hard to cover the sun codes that are coming in. All right, they're trying to prevent the rise of metahumans, humans with supernatural powers, because they know that their time is up and they fear that, as mentioned last week. So I'm going to take one more super chat and then I'm going to end this with a small little prayer. Thank you, Orvion, for the super chat. Last question. What happens to people who use other people to their benefit? Those are called negative-oriented people that are service to self. And from what I hear is that people that are service to self, at least 51% service to self, are not going to make the positive Earth ascending timeline. So they will be recycled into the negative technocratic dystopian timeline, where they will be enslaved by AI as the Antichrist. All right, let's go ahead and end this with a prayer to allow for the full light codes to come in and to activate the first waivers of superhumans. All right, so we're going to be using some crystals for this to magnify and enhance the energy. And so at this time, I would love for each and every one of you to center yourselves.
Take a deep breath. One day soon, the Earth will go through an event with a solar flash. On June 21st of this month, there is expected to be a large burst of solar photonic energy coming off of the sun. This energy is meant to be for the starseeds and not for any of the dark forces. For this transition to the new Earth, the golden age, and with the solar flash, we are intending that there be no chaos prior to this event. Let there be no dark influences dealing with harvesting of any loose energy, of any of the galactic light codes that are coming in through the central sun, through the solar flares. And we pray that in the time leading up to this June 21st summer solstice, may we all get on to the correct timeline for this solar flash event, so that the negative AI timeline splits from the positive Earth timeline. We now allow our bodies to be a vessel for the highest photonic light from the sun and central sun. And we breathe in this rainbow light energy, like through the top of this pyramid, down in to our bodies. Like imagine the rainbow light coming in into the top of your head, the crown chakra, and trickling down into all of your other chakras. Also, let us connect to our 12 strands DNA right now. And please visualize a double strand DNA helix, and let all this strand be encrusted with diamonds. So we are also going to be anchoring in the diamond light into our DNA. We wish that these solar light codes do not get stuck being harvested by any archons, Draco reptilians, mantids, greys, and any negatively polarized Anunnaki. We ask that all the fear-based agenda they have towards evil, with any involvement such as trying to harvest this solar flash light that is meant to be for the humans, let them simply be seen by God, that they've had multiple chances to come back to God in the light, And now that they're turning their backs on God and the light and the chosen ones here that are meant to receive these strong incoming solar flash codes, let them be purged so they no longer exist on Earth. We do not agree to this. We are also cleansing away any of their crystalline technology that is being put around the sun to completely protect the solar logos in a 500 ring titanium shield. And let this event that we co-create also bring in very important ETs that will surround this whole positive timeline to keep co-creating the new Earth with the ET ships staying here to make sure that this dormant DNA strand activation event happen without any hate and malevolence. And knowing that this is coming, we clear all of these dark forces. We purge them all completely so that they can be burned away with all their old negativity. So be it, and it is done.
So be it, and it is done. All right, guys. May the God force be with you all.